Hello class, this is a video demonstration for exercise 3, our blind contour drawing. As you can see for this drawing, I did break our page directly in the middle, just like we did in exercise 2, so that we have a left side and a right side to work from. And in this case, we're going to be using our left side to do a fast blind contour drawing, and then the right side to do a slow blind contour drawing. We will also be repeating this on the back side, and we're going to be using a different object for the second set of drawings on the back of our sheet here. So just to recap, blind contour drawing is a drawing where we basically have an object in front of us. We are staring at it, but we are not trying to look back at our notebook as we draw this object. What we want to do is try to train our hand-eye coordination. So what we're going to do is look at an object, and with our eyes kind of trace the outer edge or the contour of the object. And as our eyes are looking at that outer edge and kind of following those intricacies and those small edges that make this object unique and details, we're going to be letting our eye move along, or we're going to be letting our hand move along with our eyes as we move through the object to draw our figure on our piece of paper. Again, it's really important that for this process that we keep our pencil on the paper at all times, and then we keep our eyes on the object at all times. We want this to be essentially a continuous line drawing, and a continuous line drawing is where we try to draw our entire object using a single line. This is a slower process than a gestural drawing, and whereas gestural drawing was more kind of concerned with shapes and energy, this blind contour is very much focused on rendering the outer contour of our object. And that includes all the little details that we might see along that contour, those little kind of bumps, any kind of little wrinkles or folds that we see on that journey or on that little path. We want to try to jot that in and get it in as quickly as possible. Size is something that we kind of want to keep an eye on, although it is okay in this sense if we do kind of go over that kind of line break that we have in the middle and kind of spill over to our next side. It's not that big a deal. These drawings by nature are kind of sloppy, are a little bit loose, and especially when we're not looking at our piece of paper, it's a little bit harder to kind of keep track of scale. So if this thing gets a little bit messy, if it gets a little ugly, that's totally okay. And as we move over to our next side, if these things start to overlap a little bit, it's just going to happen, right? We're not looking. Ideally, we're not looking, and you don't want to look, so those kind of accidents are going to be bound to happen. So we want to do kind of like what we did in our last drawing. We do kind of want to look at our object and then try to imagine where we could see it existing on our page before we get started. And once we kind of know more or less where we would like to start on our object, we'll go ahead and put our pencil on our pad exactly where we kind of imagine our object being. So in my case, I'm working with this kind of letter balloon. It is in the shape of a B, which is kind of good, kind of bad, right? When we have objects that we can identify and recognize, typically we tend to want to draw from our imagination. We want to kind of fight that in this and in all kind of observational drawings that we do in the future, is try to focus on exactly what's in front of you and try your best not to let your mind take over and take the wheel from you, and then let your imagination or your memory take over. Let's just try to focus on exactly what's in front of us. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start at the base of the B, right there where that little kind of pull tab is. And then I'm going to start there, and I'm going to try to wrap all the way around. And like I said before, I'm going to try to focus on every single little detail that I can see, and just kind of dropping that in as I move along with my eye. So again, hand and eye need to be moving simultaneously. So as you kind of trace your object with your eye, make sure that your pencil is doing the same thing. Okay, so right away, we can see that our start line and our finish line didn't quite line up. But as we're moving through, this is kind of going to be one of the key characteristics of a blind contour drawing is that if things don't line up, that's kind of the part of the process that kind of gives it away that that you were focusing on just the outer contour and that you weren't taking your eye off your object and then you were focusing strictly on drawing. In this case, I only focused on the outer contour of my object. So what I can do now that I have the outer bit is I can go back in and I can look at my drawing and say, okay, so what part of this is the most accurate? And then I can start to focus in on what the interior contour looks like. So we can add a second line to this to add in a second bit of information. The interior of my object does have a lot of really interesting kind of folds and creases that I really want to play with. So I'm going to go ahead and start back up here in the middle. Again, kind of on that bottom part of the top section of the B. And I'm going to try to follow the inside of that line all the way around and try to catch that detail. And once I have the exterior and interior of my shape, that will be my my blind contour drawing, right, for this object. One thing I did notice is that, again, it's kind of small on the page. I do have a lot of this space that I didn't use. So maybe on my slow contour drawing, I can try to focus on utilizing the space a little bit better. And then just kind of internalize that, okay, this needs to be a little bit bigger, so maybe my lines could be a little bit longer whenever I'm drawing my lines. Maybe stay in that line for a little bit longer so that I'm making my form bigger, right? So the longer we stay in that line, the bigger it gets, or the longer it gets. So just kind of keep that in mind, that kind of short strokes and short lines are going to result in a smaller drawing. So let's try that inside bit and then see what this blind contour ends up looking like. So the interior contour line didn't really redeem my drawing at all, but you can kind of see more or less what the two areas are, right? You can see that top area of my B and the bottom area of the B. And what I did is I started off on the inside of my shape, came into that kind of belly of the B, came back up along that back edge, and I try to kind of reconnect my line with that the exterior contour that I'd done before. Didn't quite line up, but again, that just means my hand-eye coordination might need a little bit more work. I really do like the way these lines came out, though. They have a lot of unique kind of character, and I feel like they're definitely following what my eye was seeing, right? So keep that in mind as you move forward. These aren't going to be beautiful masterpieces. They are going to be basically just kind of like you going through the motions, going through the exercises, and training your eye and your hand to work together to create a work of art, right? So this left one was my fast. Now I want to do the same thing on the right, but I do want to take my time a little bit more, come back in here, and then like we did an exercise to assess what was wrong with this one. Well, not necessarily what was wrong, but what was the approach that we took with this one on the left and how we can improve it on the one on the right. Typically, by slowing down the process, we are a lot more considerate of our mark. We pick up more detail, and then these drawings do end up looking a little bit better the longer we stay in it. What you can do in your long blind contour drawing is move from the exterior to the interior. So as I'm moving in, say for instance, if I'm just as a quick kind of example, if I'm looking at this kind of left part of the B and coming in up, and then I see a wrinkle here on the, I guess that top corner of the B, I could also kind of dip in there and try to catch that wrinkle because I saw it, move back out, hit that turn. There's another wrinkle this way, and then there's a little tab there. And then there's maybe like another wrinkle here, and then there, back out to the top, the next little tab, there's a wrinkle there, a wrinkle there, a wrinkle there. So if you see it and you want to capture it, even if it's on the inside of your object, you can kind of move in, pick it up, try to get another wrinkle in there, and then try to come back out. And that could be one way for us to draw this without having to start and stop in the process. So that's our blind contour drawing. Again, what I want you guys to do is use two objects for this. The front and the back. Left side is going to be slow. Right side is going to be fast. And these will be due on Saturday by 11:59 is kind of like the soft deadline. Like I said, always best to try to finish up these assignments as they're assigned, the weekend they're assigned in, and try not to get that backlog kind of building up on us throughout the semester, right? These are going to be due at midterm at the very latest, so make sure that you are completing them on time. Have a good week, and we'll talk on Tuesday.